And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite, the Streisand effect, because people are not supposed to be executed until after they have been given their due process in the courts, and even then under the most extreme of circumstances, as determined by a jury of their peers. Topical, right? Part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble, and you can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Hi. Great to be with you. For those of you that are looking right now over on YouTube and you're looking at me and kind of going, is this just a really bad Among Us cosplay? No, I have not lost power. No, I have not lost heat. It's just cold. And admittedly, overnights, I turn the heat down because don't really need it. When you're normally in bed, and the timer for my thing is, evening. It kind of goes off and it's cool. It's cold. Over here in the Western New York area, it is it is roughly, I haven't looked it up, it's roughly minus 20 Celsius. Granted, we don't have to worry about wind chill, but for the vast majority of the country, of the continent, it is sub-zero temperatures. I don't care what scale you're using. Other than Kelvin, of course. However, considering that the National Weather Service here in the United States has issued warnings in the upper Midwest into Minnesota, don't you know, for exploding trees. Yeah, it's cold. So
it's minus 40 C, which is also minus 40 F.
So for all of you that are dealing with, really brutal cold, just be safe. Down the right-hand coast, of course, with me, UnrenownedTech. Glad you're able to make it. Good morning.
Yes, indeed. I got to see snow. I'm happy.
From the Midwest of the U.S., where it is brutal, Brigid Fitch, thank you for making it.
Hi. Yes, right now it is minus 11 C, and the wind chill is minus 17 C, which is not too bad. It will get worse, Sunday night, so, and Monday night. And we have lots of the white stuff, but no ice, so that's good.
And over on the left coast, where it is decidedly warmer, Io Cloud, thank you for being able to make it. Good evening.
Sunburnt.
That happens.
I went to an SCA event today. I was heralding. I have the ability to herald again. I haven't completely lost my voice, and I got sunburnt.
Well, that'll do it.
Sun tickled. So, yeah, the rest of you guys are freezing cold, and here I am going, sun. Lots of clouds, but sun. Once again, the West Coast does the thing that we like to do to East Coasters and middle of the continenters. You guys have snow? We have sun.
You can keep that burning ball of UV radiation. I will take my cold cave any day of the week.
The sun is a deadly laser.
You gotta understand, I've been doing this since I was 9, calling my grandparents and saying, yeah, picking flowers for my mommy in January.
Yeah, but remember, you also end up having the earth move under your feet every once in a while, so...
The earth moves under... Yeah, so... I'd rather take an earthquake than a tornado or meters of snow.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And the traffic.
Never mind the traffic a second. I will objectively prove to you that you're wrong. there are ways of knowing when weather patterns are likely and happening. What kind of warning do you get for an earthquake ahead of time?
About 30 seconds sometimes.
Mhm.
But that's just it. You can't really stop an earthquake, and but when it comes to those weather things, you're in the way.
You know, I was about to say that you really don't have any way of stopping a weather pattern, but I forgot that we've got tactical nuclear. Thank you all for being with us tonight. We hope that you guys are staying safe, staying warm, and staying safe more than anything else. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but OMG, some of the Waffle Houses in Tennessee have closed.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up later.
Okay. I will not exactly counter that, but I will also say the company that I work for has already gone ahead and said, as of earlier today, they had determined and made the official call, stores across North America. And, you know, this also includes, of course, the Canadian contingent, because North America have decided that as a company, they're going to be closed Sunday. Monday, I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I don't like that idea of trying to gauge it out that far. But considering how bad it is, yeah, I would not be at all surprised if they decided that Monday they're just, no. Because I'm expecting there to be travel bans. And let me tell you, if I go in on Monday morning, better yet, if I go on a Tuesday morning, and there's been a travel ban since Sunday, and I found out that people have been literally dumping product on the sidewalk where I work because they couldn't be arsed to put it anywhere else, there's going to be words. There's going to be a lot of words. Only some of which can be pronunciation. Yes. The cameras that we have, the camera, I should say, in the area where this would be, the resolution on it is best described. Okay, you're familiar with the various
1985.
You're familiar with the various resolutions from like 144p, 240p, 1080p. Yeah. AS. The official designation in the technical is AS.
So less than 320.
So whatever it is, we've been trying to steadily acquire donated stuff so that we can put together a self-contained system for, we could just hang it on a wall, literally, outside, and have it, charge itself.
You need a Raspberry Pi.
There's only so much charging that can be done, especially in the winter, so we'll see what we can do. In any case, folks, thanks for joining us. We hope that you're staying safe. If you would like to be joining us as we're recording live, of course, and join these folks who are apparently decided that it's good to be awake and running the NVIDIA heat source to heat your feet. That's perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable. By the way, NVIDIA, screw you guys too, by the way. But that's a whole other tech thing. That's a whole other thing. Stephanie, hi, yeah, has also said, we're going to get all that weather in about 2 weeks or so. Yeah, I know, and it's not going to be real happy when it gets there. Lexa, hi, good to see you too. Of course, you guys just stay safe out there. We appreciate it. And Stephanie, what you got over there, I'm going to make a sideline. Think about that momentarily, because that's not part of the opening tonight, believe it or not. So how about I go ahead and I'll get that, because I actually did get the scopes done in time for Friday night show, which means we've got a full list, and we'll kind of go from there, right? So with no arguments in the way, let me go ahead and do that then. So your 5-minute freestyle, and the timer starts right now. Uncle. Now, I may have used this title before. I don't remember. I don't keep track of these things, believe it or not. I really don't. And I could have used it in conjunction with the news. Because if you're paying any kind of attention to what's been going on in the news this past week, or month and a half, we've got more tragedy, outrage that's been going on, especially out in part of the area that part of my family was once from. Out Minnesota, don't you know? That's, believe it or not what I'm going to be hitting on this time. In this case, I am saying a little something about a gentleman that has died this past week, and it's not someone that you would very likely know. A gentleman whose professional moniker was Uncle, specifically Uncle Floyd. He was an entertainer in New Jersey for a very long time. He was a very avant-garde kind of guy. He was fun. He had a TV show that was on, amongst other things, it was on local cable over there in New Jersey, but he was also on broadcast on one of the UHF stations out of New Jersey for a while. And I remember seeing parts of his show when I would go to visit my grandparents in Brooklyn. We were up 8, 9 stories up. I forget exactly where it was, but we had an overview of New York City Harbor, and were able to see the downtown visage of Manhattan, Lady Liberty. But the cool part was, even with just really dinky rabbit ears on the back of the TV in my grandparents' bedroom, we were able to watch one of the TV stations coming out of New Jersey, low power UHF. And that's where I got to see the Uncle Floyd show. And it was weird. And he was a great pianist. He was a lot of fun. He made jokes, and he had a puppet that he would do the voice for, because one of those guys where you've got a little stick puppet that you could hold it out of the camera view so that you don't really see it. So there's this little bit of disbelief that you can get away with. And one of the things that people had remembered, one of the little interactions that he had with this puppet, was Floyd saying, without me, you don't have a voice. And it closes in really tight on the puppet. Yeah, well, without me, you can't eat. And it's that kind of thing where it's like, how do you come up with this stuff, man? He made a career out of entertaining people. He was one of those people that had a career that, even if it was very localized, he made disparaging jokes about New Jersey all the time. But he also had performers that were come in that were local also. Met him, all said wonderful things about him. And yeah, I mean, there's that whole, you don't disparage the recently deceased. But again, it's another one of those things where it's like, everybody had great things to say. And I think that is one of the greatest legacies anyone could have. Not that there's a rage machine going on about who somebody was, but that, like other people, very famously, who were just good people, nurturing people, people who they may not have had a huge visage, but for the people that they were with, they were good, they were uplifting, and they brought a smile. So do you, Uncle Floyd, and the characters that you have, that you created, that you brought out for us to enjoy and laugh at and remember. Thank you. Because this one kid still remembers fondly. And this adult feels bad that he missed the opportunity to try to interview you just once, to say thank you. Thank you, man. Just thank you. Yeah, I still want to go looking up over on YouTube, find out what clips are still up and available. The Uncle Floyd show was very low budget, just from looking at how it was done. I mean, it was effectively cable access levels of budget. It was fun, it was weird, it was irreverent, and like I said, Floyd, holy smoke, man, somebody who can play an upright piano that, I don't remember how in tune it was. I don't think it was terribly out of tune, but I definitely don't think it was like professionally tuned every, 6 months or anything like that. And for those of you that are wondering, how often do you have to tune a piano? Usually, not very. Like once a year, if you're in like a using it often. But I mean, no big thing. But he was fun. And if I remember right, he even had a radio show, broadcast radio, if I remember right, and supposedly had like one of the largest collections of Italian songs, Italian heritage, Italian performers, that kind of thing. And that was like his big thing. And I feel bad, man. He's a good person. Great personality. He's definitely going to be missed. So let's move it along, because we've got the horrible scopes to go ahead and do. And I need to turn off the feed so that I don't have to see that in the background. So let's go ahead and do that. It is time for the horrible scopes. For those of you that know what your astrological sign is, cool, I don't really much care, but if you want to try to figure it out and randomize it, we, of course, always recommend a D12, because supporting your local game store is a good thing. And if you don't have a D12, you know what, $2, maybe, if even that. Or just, however much it is, just get a couple of something or other. Because these guys are usually very local, and they don't get a lot of money. And they could use a couple of dollars, or whatever you use locally. I don't care what it is. So speaking of monies, as anybody knows, art is subjective in its value. Visual mediums are easily consumed, so they're quickly valued. Auditory works, like musical performances and oration, they take time to be presented. And they usually involve multiple individuals, working in tandem, requiring much pre-production, planning, practice. And then there's written art, things like these scopes, for instance. Some of you don't think of the written work as art. Yeah, you'd be wrong. And just as wrong to think that authors don't deserve a little something in appreciation. So for all of us, for all of you, we're finding out how you're going to be appreciation. Because the stars this week have spoken. There'll be an explanation in a little while, don't worry about that. Aries, getting you things to make you happy is a little bit more of a challenge than was anticipated. How do we combine giving you a vacation with your favorite thing in the world? The longest shower imaginable. Well, we've got the solution for you. No pun intended. We've created a web portal for you to book your next vacation and to filter your hotel choices by which ones have on-demand hot water heaters in the shower. So this week, Nothing says you can't take a 1-hour steaming hot shower in one of those rooms. Just remember, if the ceiling spackle starts falling because there's too much steam, you just might have overdone it a little bit.
Taurus, we really want to do something fun for you, and we're pretty sure we've got you covered. You used to love your Saturday morning cartoons, but you know how insipid those plots really were now. So instead of getting you collections of those shows, we've acquired for you a couple production cells from the studios. So this week, just remember to take it to a comic convention and have it signed by the folks who actually worked on that show. We know you'd never sell it, but that personal value will be through the roof.
Gemini, with your proclivities for all things food, you'd think we'd just give you a week off and make dinner for you ourselves. And we know that'd be torture. You like to cook. You need to cook. Hell, it's almost like an obsession for you if it wasn't just so necessary for life. So this week, we're getting you the box set of every Weird Al album and recorded performance. If there's any creature that appreciates food as much as you do, it's him. Enjoy.
You know, it helps if I unmute myself.
It does.
Cancer Moonchild, the winter weather isn't usually something you can make fashion statements with, but for you, we're making an exception. Between super insulating material and fabric printing, we're investing in a set of winter beanies for VOO. But they're all printed to look like your own head. And not just any head, your big, bald head. With a little creative photo editing, we have a picture of you, bald, printed onto a hat rated for -20 Celsius temperatures. So this week, for those of you who are already bald, we've added artificial hair in a 90s top knot. The best part of that is the helicopter effect when the wind picks up. It's a toque.
Bun.
It's a toque.
Man bun.
Yes, I know it's supposed to be a toque, but unfortunately, most of the world doesn't know of it as a toque. Only the cultured do. Leo, you remember the production of Phantom of the Opera you were in? You know, how the cable for the chandelier got stuck on a spotlight and pulled it down, you know, landing in the stage about 3 meters away from where you were standing? Well, they finally retired that light, and they've tracked you down so that you can forever have a piece of it to hold on to. So this week, keep the light bulb from it on your bookshelf, right where someone in your video conference can see it. And when someone asks about it, say it's a memento of the last person who tried to kill you. See how many people think you're some kind of secret agent or something because of it.
Virgo, just for clarification, a Virgonian has tried tilting the scales through bribery. Sorry, we misspoke. They have successfully tilted the scales through bribery. After discovering what they were bribing for, specifically to exempt themselves from DJ Rule 0, the stars have decided to intervene in a bizarre way. Where normally the scopes are semi-mean-spirited, you'll notice that they are all nice to everyone. So this week, enjoy the feeling of having all the other signs being grateful to you for this. You've done a good thing, but we're not expecting this every week. We've got a reputation to uphold, you know.
Libra, there's something to be said for using the expression the definitive article when describing someone or something. For instance, in the TV series Doctor Who, the Doctor occasionally uses that phrase for himself. I am the doctor, the definitive article, you might say. And for him, that's basically true. So when you've been described as the definitive article regarding something, and you're the only one in that category, well, so this week, you realize this means you need to learn more about your craft to up your game, right? Time to see how much more you can learn.
2, 3. Scorpio. Yes, I can count to 3. Scorpio, we want you to have fun with everyone else, so here's a suggestion. Multiplayer games. We know you don't like all those competitive shooty, bang, bang, pew, pew games, so how about something still competitive and playfully fun? We're going to suggest online Uno via Steam. So this week, remember, zeros rotate everyone's hands, sevens let you steal someone else's hand, and Mark, Bob, and Wade are masters of making that game more fun than it has any right to be.
My son and I actually play online Uno through Steam. We have a blast with it. And he pointed out the video of Markiplier playing it with his buddies. And Markiplier lost his head. And we were laughing our butts off.
Was that the hand where he ended up having to draw 15?
Yep.
Yeah, somebody remind me that I got to find that. I got to find that specific video. I know which one it is. I know which one it is. Sagittarius, the tism in your brain goes bert whenever you get new information about stuff you can take apart with some simple tools and a little patience. So how about you check out this stupid thing? We want you to understand that there's this guy on YouTube who's decided to tease everyone about the knowledge he's got and the experience he wants to share, mostly because Electroboom makes him look like he's earned a PhD in cool under pressure. So this week, if you know who we're describing already, you've got some really amazing YouTube skills, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, don't worry about it. They already know who's being referenced here.
Capricorn, your collection of stuffed animals from that mall-based animal inflator business is impressive. We're most impressed with how you were able to score pallet cases of unsold merchandise. Except we know what you're doing. You're using them to make replacement patterns so you can design and sew your own versions, but still keep them official enough looking. So this week, the official ones can have sound effect devices put inside them. Don't you dare use ones that simulate heartbeats. We've seen how this ends in Ted and Chucky. So don't do that.
Do it. Do it. Aquarius, you have know-how. You have the drive and gumption. You can actually be a real-life superhero, but you'll need to scale back your ideas, I can talk, of what that constitutes. So, yeah, you won't be bulletproof. You can't jump 4 stories straight up, and you can't bench press a VW Beetle. But you know what you can do? You can help teach and educate and share ideas. Because a hero's legacy is predicated on the difference they make in society, not in their violence. So this week, how about something kind of simple, like how to read music? It's a whole other language with Italian words for emphasis and mathematics as the sentence structure. Do not underestimate this skill.
Pisces, yes, fish face, it's your turn. You've been maligned for supposedly being the most artistic of the group, but that's only because you're sensitive. You know that what's another way of describing this condition? Being attentive to the feelings of oneself and others? This is hardly a flaw. This is a rare dynamic worthy of becoming the next Doctor Who. So this week, Yes, yes, you got gifted some funds for the scopes this week. Congratulations! Now set that aside and start working on the next ones before you lose your creative mojo. Or else.
And I am personally called out on that one now. And part of the reason why this happened to be that way is that, yes, a Vergonian did actually contribute to the horrible scopes. Thank you. I do not believe that they actually watched this particular show, but you know what? That's okay. That actually works out conveniently that way. Those are your horrible scopes for this week. Remember, if you like what you got, thank Virgo, because they had a hand in that rear flipper, hoof, or wing, or something. I don't know what it is. If you'd like to continue contributing to the good feelings, you can help by bribing. And you can either, ask nicely or literally bribe me over at the coffee page. It's coffee.com/Icarus the Lunar Guard. As always, I'll have these posted at the end of the week. Tumblr, Facebook, Coffee, Discord, BlueSky, because, that's the way that it works. And if anybody's got a problem with that, they can come over to me and we can discuss it over coffee because coffee. Coffee is good. It is episode 561 on the docket, Your Honor. Dis versus miss. Now, as always, as I've mentioned, there are only a handful of podcasts that I still listen to at this point. It's kind of the way that it works out because of the timing involved. So, imagine my surprise as I get inspired by the guys over there at Cognitive Dissonance, because I do. Because they said something that kind of caught on me. They were using the terms disinformation and misinformation. And I don't remember the entirety of the context, but it kind of stuck with me that if you kind of get a little bit pedantic about it, and we kind of have to, regardless of what anybody else thinks, it's a really good idea to know which is which. Because, well, words mean things. And it's probably really good in this current time, I wasn't going to say day and age, to make sure that if we're going to use the term correctly, we know what it means. And that if we need to use it, we use it intentionally. I know it seems kind of stupid to go through an English lesson on the show, but considering the way that things have been going on, I think it's really important to know very specifically these two terms, because Lord knows we're seeing a whole bunch of them being used right now. So, real quickly, the two terms, like I said, disinformation and misinformation. For me, there are a lot of times where I've felt that they were interchangeable, except that they're really not. And I'm going to have you guys kind of go through with me and see if I've got anything wrong on this, because I would like to think that I have worked very hard to keep language as one of those things that, still is important in my brain after, having it fracture into a couple gajillion pieces. Disinformation. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say is when I was really young, I was actually introduced to one of these two very early on, pre-internet days. And I had made a statement in class and I had heard it from somebody else. And so I'm, doing word of mouth. Things get garbled in translation. Usually, the whole game of telephone, for example, demonstrates that more often than not. And the teacher had said, "You have been misinformed." I said, "Well, I heard it from so-and-so." "Well, that person has been misinformed. That statement you made is factually incorrect." And I believe it was wasn't my science teacher. I never had that kind of problem. I think it was my geography teacher, because we were talking about parts of the world and such, and he had been all over the world. Like, you name a country, he had been there. And so that was high school. Yeah, that was high school, freshman year of high school. But even before that, I had heard that in junior high, and I even heard an adult say it to to a teacher say it to a parent when I was in elementary school, even though I didn't know what it meant back then. So saying that somebody's been misinformed, that I've heard used, but the whole concept of disinformation, that was something that I didn't hear until my college years, believe it or not.
No, I believe it. Brigid, Io, either one of you got anything that you wanted to say right away?
I'm going to say sometimes the terms actually can be interchangeable, and I'll tell you why. Now, misinformation is when you're repeating something that's not factually correct, but your intent is not malign. But disinformation is when you are purposely spewing propaganda. Now, how they can be intertwined is when someone takes something that is, genuinely misinformation, the intention is not bad, they're just misinformed, like Tech said, and then using that to weaponize it and spread disinformation. And that's the biggest difference between the two. Is misinformation is where you heard it from a source and you're giving that information, but you're not intending any harm. But disinformation is lying, and it is intentionally to cause harm or spreading propaganda and spreading fake information for that purpose.
Io, you've got a chance.
The media is the message. A Canadian professor realized that about TV a long time ago. The media is the message.
Yeah, something to be said for that. And that can pretty well lay out for almost any of them. Because, well, as we've seen, any one of them can be realigned to do various different things. Misinformation is an accident, generally speaking. Now, I'm not saying it's an absolute, because there's all kinds of wiggle room, there's all kinds of shades of gray. Disinformation, well, that one's a problem, because disinformation is active in its, well, disinformation doesn't necessarily have to be using incorrect or factually inaccurate stuff. It could be just in how something is portrayed. For instance, if you wanted to go ahead and say, as an example, the risk of contracting, I don't want to name any specific diseases. I'm going to use an actual term. It is not a real disease. As a matter of fact, it's not a disease at all. The risk, using this as the example, the risk of contracting mononucleosis in people who have consumed dihydrogen monoxide is increased 3 times compared to the rest of the population. Okay, that in and of itself sounds like a bad thing, until you dig into it and you find out that the random population possibility of contracting mononucleosis is 1 in 10 million people. Still not a great number, but it's a pretty good number. Okay, so 3 people in 10 million are at risk and will contract mononucleosis. Well, you change it out from 3 times to saying, well, it's 3 in 10 million people. That's still a really, really low number. Still accurate information, but how you present it is where the disinformation piece, especially fear-mongering, as you can probably tell, is where that comes in. That's why I find disinformation to be so much more insidious, because it takes effort to get to that level of dishonesty, shall we say. And Tech, I'm going to bring it back over to you, because I'm kind of wondering then if the reference for, very specifically, the term disinformation, if your knowledge of that, your biggest knowledge of that, might come from, as for me, the old Cold War, the Red Scare days of worrying about what was going on between governments and standing armies and the such.
Yeah, I was never really good at like history and such. And the way I actually learned about disinformation was from a programming course, believe it or not. Um, One company was trying to get their product to be, sold more over competitors, and they were spreading disinformation about said competitors' product. And we were talking about it in our coding class because we were using said negatively talked about product. And somebody brought it up. Sorry about that. Somebody brought it up in class with the teacher, and the teacher said, "Oh yeah, they're just spreading they're spreading. It's a what was it? Damn, I think he said something along the lines of disinformation campaign, spreading misinformation around, doing it on purpose so that people would buy their own product." And we got into a weird debate after that in a programming course of all places. Of course, we were all hyped up on caffeine, so we would talk about anything at that point. Yeah, it was kind of weird having that kind of talk. Ultimately, I think that company got caught up in a lawsuit. They got found guilty, fined, and all that stuff. But other than a fine, nothing really came of it. For the life of me, I can't even remember what the product was anymore. That was just too long ago, and I've had too many things happen to my memories for me to have a clear recollection of it. But yeah, I mean, sure, I know I was taught about the Cold War, World War I, World War II, and everything else. I just don't remember a lot of the details because I've had brain problems over the last year and a half now.
It's all right. Brigid, only because you are a little bit more .mil oriented, I don't know what information you would know or remember, because, I mean, disinformation campaigns in various warfares, I mean, that's been a thing for long time. I'm kind of wondering if you have anything.
I can't really think of anything when I was enlisted. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I know that, we were shown old propaganda posters, from the war. And I would guess that there was some propaganda that was used to get people to enlist after 9/11. But 9/11 in itself was a whole propaganda thing, and that's how we wound up with the Patriot Act and the Department of Homeland Security. And for anybody who was paying attention back then, which I was, the word homeland in and of itself should have been a big red flag. That term was not used in this country. What does homeland make you think of? The German Reich?
I remember that too.
And I think the reason for putting that in place, and I could see the slippery slope even back then, as far as losing rights and all that. I think that that in itself could be considered disinformation on why we needed to give up some of our rights to be safe. And nothing like 9/11 has happened since, but look where we are now. And where we are now, I think some of the information that has been coming out about these recent murders in Minnesota has been disinformation in itself when you have people like Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, coming out and saying that, or Kristi Noem coming out and saying that these were horrible terrorists who were threatening ICE. You know, coming out and saying shit like that, that's disinformation. They're not misinformed, they're making up, you know, alternative facts, to quote, you know, the administration. There is no such thing as alternative facts. There's either facts or there's non-facts. You can thank Kellyanne Conway for that one.
No, that was Sean Spicer.
Well, Kellyanne Conway is the one who introduced the term to media of there are facts and alternative facts. Now, Sean Spicer did alternative facts when he was lying about, you know, the size of the inaugural crowd and all that. But I think she was the spokesperson who came up with the alternative facts. I'll have to Google that to make sure, because I may be spouting misinformation now, but let me Google that. So hold that thought. We'll let Tech or IO talk.
That's fair. So how about you, IO? Where do you want to talk on that one?
I haven't really been listening.
You've been trying to take pot shots at your cat, haven't you?
Oh, I Googled it.
Maybe.
I Googled it, and Kellyanne Conway is credited with coining that term in January 2017 to defend Sean Spicer's false claims.
That's fair.
So I was correct. Yay.
Okay, so we were talking about 2001 and 9/11 and how all of a sudden the Patriot Act and all that crap came up. Here I was up in Canada looking at it, knowing that I had American relatives and thinking about contacting them and saying, hey, I might not be able to financially sponsor you, but I can at least get you guys out of there. Forcing Canadians and Americans to have to use passports from going between those two countries is still stupid, because a lot of us have relatives on the other side of the border. Cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, parents. And, you know, that border coming down hard with passports and whatnot, that basically cut a bunch of families off.
We're kind of... We're not talking on that part so much as the stuff that made so much more of that happen. The information, misinformation, disinformation, stuff that ended up going into that.
Yeah, I was watching all that too, and it was basically just me with my jaw dropping. Americans are believing this shit.
And
They believed it. They believed it back when it was better to be dead than red. That scare. They believed it when the Cold War was the Cold War. Oh no, we must have our children train on how to hide under their desks just in case a nuke goes off. And so on and so forth. The United States has one skill: how to commit war. Instead of tech, instead of education, instead of sciences, it's a really good war machine.
you know, I would really like to argue against that point. I would really like to be able to argue against that point very heavily.
But I'm right.
There is unfortunately far too much that's accurate in that. But
Mm.
so as far as to the whole disinformation stuff, I mean, you know, we talked about the stuff that's been in recent history, especially very recent in this century. But if you want to go back, you can completely skip over the 20th. I mean, there was a campaign called, well, there was effectively a battle cry, and the mis/disinformation that became a rallying cry that to this date, I don't remember if it has ever been confirmed one way or the other. Remember the Maine. The Maine was a ship that was a U.S. ship that blew up. It was sunk. The exact why of it all, I don't recall who it was that ended up having it happen to them. Meaning, I don't know if it was an internal explosion, that something went bad, or somebody bombed it, or whatever the case may be. It just became a rallying cry, and, well, why stop a completely great lie when the truth doesn't necessarily need to be shown off? Because fiction is so much more fun. And it's annoying because so many of us would very much prefer to have, like, reality. I know, I'm trying really hard to try to figure out how to make this much more thing. You know what? Let's kind of come around this from the backside for a second. And I'm going to hit you first because your Canadian education is probably a little bit better in this than ours in a couple of ways. I remember when I was growing up, and admittedly, my public education was actually pretty damn good. But we very much did not go into nearly as much time and effort for trying to figure out from examples, was reading passages of stuff and having to decide, is this opinion or is this fact? And how to gauge which one you should give more credence to. And I got to imagine that for you guys, you actually went into a little bit more critical thought and trying to understand, especially news articles, to make sure that you understood, even in those earlier years, what's what's fact, what's opinion, and how do you judge which is which and which is important?
Every single kid in British Columbia, not necessarily the entire country, but at least in British Columbia, between grades 9 and 12 had to take social studies and consumer education. Consumer education actually was a lot about being able to pinpoint, oh, that's a fake, that's scam, that's that. And if you failed, you had to retake it until you passed. Yeah, I failed, but it wasn't because I didn't understand what was going on. I failed because I was being harassed in the class. And I did take it twice, maybe 3 times. My grade wasn't high enough, according to my mother. Anyway, it was something that every single kid had to take in order to graduate. And if you didn't take it, you couldn't graduate. This also include how to write checks, how basics about looking at the stock market, real basic, and a whole bunch of other things as well. And we actually tore apart advertisements. We tore apart sexist advertisements. We tore apart stuff that made us go, it looks good, but it's not. And because of that education, I've managed to keep from getting hit by the advanced fee scams. Not completely. And it wasn't the advanced fee scam, it was the I'm going to send you a check, you send me part of it back, you keep the rest scam. But I was smart, I put it into an account that had nothing in it. I specifically opened the account just to do that. And because I thought it was legit. I really did think it was legit. I was that convinced. But it took that much in order to convince me. Some of these scams that people have tried, one of them was the send me $5 in Apple money so that I can use my phone and stuff and actually call you. It's like, no. Right now on TikTok, there are thousands of people doing advanced fee scams. Give me your Cash App. See, I put $3,000 into your Cash App. All you have to do is send me $100 and it'll release because you need to be verified by my company. No. I really wish I'd been keeping a list of which people on TikTok were doing this shit because I could have published it and said, hey, TikTok, do something about these idiots.
Yeah, to that end, Tech, real quick then, let's kind of hit on these really quickly. Because this actually does cover this area. The tech scams. No, nothing personal. The tech scams that go on.
No.
Where the random number generators spit out somebody's phone number and all of a sudden, hi, I'm calling to you from technical support over at Microsoft. We've determined that there's problems with your system and we're here to go ahead and take care of all the problems that you've got with your system if you just give me access to it in $1,400.
Yeah, there was a recent one where they called and said they were from Comcast, and I'm like, oh really? Now the second they said they were from Comcast, I knew it was a scam. At first, when I heard the accent, I thought it was a scam. Then when they said Comcast, I knew it was a scam because here's the thing about Comcrap. Okay, Comcrap is craptastic. That's my opinion, mind you, because of the service quality in my area. Okay. I don't really have a liking of them, but I also don't have much of a choice. Now, that being said, Comcast doesn't call you unless you've scheduled a callback. Comcast will never call you to troubleshoot your broken modem, okay, before you even know it's broken, all right? They will just let you sit there with a broken modem because they're still getting paid. If you stop paying them, they still won't call you. They will send you mail saying, hey, you owe us money. And then if it gets backlogged enough, they will send you a certain something via certified mail. They still won't call you. But I wanted to see where it went. I said, oh, really? Okay. Let's roll with this. Oh, hi. Yeah, my modem. What's wrong with it? Well, we're having trouble with the firmware update, and you're going to have internet problems until we get it resolved. So we need you to go through some processes. Okay, sure. So what would you like me to do? Well, can you see the modem from where you're at? Oh yeah. Can you tell us what color the light is? And I'll tell this out there right now. It was a solid white light. Now, for the modem that I have, solid white light means that the modem is in perfect working condition. All the services that I have are functioning properly, okay? Because it changes color based on whatever it's doing. I'm like, oh, well, that means the firmware update's stuck. You're going to have to reboot it. And I'm like, sure. So I pretended to reboot it. Again, I'm just seeing where this is going. It goes through the boot up, goes back to a solid white. I said, oh, it's back to a solid white. They're like, okay, are you in front of your computer? Sure. Well, we're going to have to remote in because we can't hit it from our side. So you're going to have to remote in and we can. And here's the part that got me. They wanted to remote into my machine. And I asked them, I said, well, here's the thing. If my internet's not working and you can't hit the modem from the outside, how are you going to remote into my computer? Oh, well, you can still talk out. Well, if I can talk out, how do you talk back in? And the guy got a little flustered. He's like, well, you just need to do what it is, or we'll just shut your service off. I said, so you're telling me that if I want to keep paying the company for a broken modem, you're going to shut my service off? You guys have really got to get your dialogue together because that is bull crap. He's like, how can you say, and I said, oh, it's real easy. Your mom. And I hung up on him. Sorry, I had to go old school, on him. Your mom, that's how.
It's so much more satisfying when you had the old backlight phone to slam down on him at that point.
Here's the thing about that. My dad originally answered his phone. And I happened to be around. And he said, oh, I can't do technical stuff. Because I handle all their technical needs. They're very old. They need a lot of care. And he could have fallen for it. He really could have. I've seen people in the grocery stores picking stacks of gift cards off the shelf for, some female or male friend overseas who's in a bit of a legal bind, or they're in trouble with the law and they have to send gift cards because they don't know anything about Bitcoin. And it's just getting worse.
Yeah, and to that end, Brigid, I'm wondering if you've seen in spots, stores where there's a whole bunch of gift cards, that there are big signs on them that says, hey, this could be a scam if, and a couple of ticks to make sure that the general public who might not otherwise be quite as savvy can look at the stuff and kind of get like this clarity moment too.
Yeah. When I was working my side gig on the weekends, we had warnings up for that kind of a thing. But, we were also, the onus was on us to also warn people who were trying to purchase said cards. If it was, for a scam, do not do it. and, letting people know that if you get an email or a phone card or, a text message saying that you can have X amount of money if you send us these gift cards, that legitimate businesses would never accept gift cards as payment for anything. And apparently some people did fall for that, otherwise there wouldn't be warnings against it. Correct?
Yeah.
Kind of like, putting warning tags on items, like do not iron clothing while wearing. Apparently somebody at some point must have done that, otherwise there would not be that warning label.
There's that. And to that point, and sticking with you on this one, to that point, there are multi-level marketing groups where the idea is you make a whole bunch of phone calls, you pull in a few people from that, and a couple of folks from that, you're able to sell whatever the subscription model is so that they can buy stock, and you get a cut of pay off of that so that they can recruit more people to come in to sell stuff and hope that the whole pyramid thing actually still works.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why that is germane, why that is also to go along with this, is that it's all about the statistics. If you have 100 people that you cold call, and you can get maybe 10 people out of that are interested enough to come in for your sales pitch, and you can get one of those people to sign on. Well, okay, how much does it cost to make those 100 phone calls in the first place? Are you making enough from the 1 or 2 people that you're able to rope into the thing to cover the cost of that and then, still make money? Well, unfortunately, the answer is yes, because otherwise it would not be a viable thing. So the whole, are there enough people that fall for this?
Yes.
Yeah. And doesn't that just suck the most?
And see, I learned something about like the email ones, right? Where it's got the poor spelling and everything else in it. I learned that that's actually partially intentional. Some cases just bad translation, other times it's intentional. The people who are likely to respond to those are people who are going to be, have a mindset that's flexible enough to be conned. Whereas a person who can parse that and realize that this is a scam, they don't want that person responding. They want the people that they can sucker, as it were. Excuse me. So, it actually helps them to not have better written emails. It helps them filter out the people that they know they're not going to get anywhere with in the first place. So that's why, even to this day, for however long this has been going on, probably since the time of creation of email, it's still terrible in terms of how their scams are set up. Some are getting better in terms of being more covert and being looking more realistic, but there are plenty that are still like, yeah, you're not a prince in Nigeria.
And there's something that I've said for quite a while now, and I'm pretty sure that I grabbed it from somebody else. There's no shame in being bamboozled by con artists, because if you were trying, because that's their game. I mean, are you gonna blame somebody for being robbed by a pickpocket, a professional pickpocket? No, you're gonna blame the pickpocketer because that's their game. You got your wallet somewhere where you would, otherwise be able to get to it that should be relatively secure, and somebody's still able to get it. Well, no, if it's not falling out the bottom of your pants and somebody was able to lift it, that's not on you. That's on them.
Well, you got to remember the 2024 Olympics, I believe it was. Pickpocketers were being warned, don't go after the Americans. You're going to get hurt.
I mean,
okay. After my husband died, I took over his spot in the HOA. It was an HOA created in order to combat a very predatory landlord. And most of the people that are part of the HOA were 60 plus, and a lot of them were 70, and a bunch of them were also 80. And they were getting hit by these scams. And one lady actually commented to one of the other people in the HOA, this was a couple years ago, that their grandchild called up and said, I need money, send me money. And the lady was actually in the process of sending that money. So Black, did the warning. Blah, 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 blah. This is fake. This is fake. About 2 years later, I was at that HOA meeting and I stood up and said, guess what? They can now fake your family voices. They can now pretend to be your daughter, your grandchild, whatever. What you do is you hang up and then you phone the last known number of that person and find out.
yeah. And, funny enough, it used to be one of the warnings that you would get from your bank, because I remember having to tell people when I was working at a bank, we will never call you if you get somebody that says that they're calling from us, unless there's some kind of like an active, like a loan application or something like that. You call us with the number, here's our card, or the phone number is inside of your savings account book, or whatever the hell it is. You call us. Don't just assume that somebody calling you saying that it's us is calling you. Verify it that way. God, I remember those days. That's great advice too.
It's getting worse, and the scams are getting stronger and more convincing. And, here I am, the heir to an estate. I'm now getting advance fee scams about estate money. Go with us, get some of your inheritance early. Yeah, how much are you going to charge me for that? Oh, you're gonna pretty much double what I should get? Yeah, I'm not gonna go for that. And it's gotten really ridiculous. I've had a realtor call me every single day this past week. And some of them are good, and a lot of them are scammy. And I even have a letter from one guy that said, we'll give you $180,000 for your house right now, and we'll help you clear it out and everything. Yeah, they're going to help me clear it out by selling everything that I don't take with me and make a profit on all that, as well as everything else. And the way the wording was specifically that I would get the 180,000, but they would get anything above that. So if the place sold for 250,000, they just made 70,000. I kind of went finger strumming. No, I'm not going to go with you guys. I don't like this contract.
Yeah.
There's
So
also a lot of companies buying up houses for more than they're worth just so that they can do the things that they want to do to them, and then try to sell them for the value of the house, all the work they put into it, and then double that. And it's just like, people can't afford that.
And this is a predatory landlord. If the rents had stayed what they were and had only gone up a little bit every single year, the rent here would be about $1,000 a month. with a little bit more for utilities, maybe $1,400. Instead, that's the starting price. Plus the utilities, easily $2,000 a month. Easily. And because of that, the prices of these houses hasn't gone up. It's actually gone down. Even though they said, hey, it's an all ages park, that means that your houses are going to be worth more. No, they're not. There are predatory landlords and companies out there that are specifically buying up manufactured home parks, hiking the rent, and then forcing everybody out so that they can redevelop the land and make it 10 times more expensive.
So it's
This
fair.
is prime real estate where I'm at. I won't say exactly how close I am to all the attractions in the area, but I'm real close.
So it's fair to say that if somebody is volunteering information, advertising, shall we say, it should be taken with far and away more skepticism than just arbitrarily, yeah, that jibes. Okay, cool. No. There are things that you really should just look at and just nope out of. Our drumsticks are better than this other company's drumsticks because we use a different wood, so it's lighter and you get more velocity and it's less fatiguing. Okay, you know what? If I was in the market for drumsticks, which most people are not, that's a claim I can look into. I can have somebody verify that and kind of gauge it. Well, all right, there are the unintended problems, of course, that if you're using lighter weight drumsticks, because you're using a different wood, that maybe they don't exactly hold up long enough, and you got to buy 3, 4, 5 sets in order to do the same work of the one set that you've already got. I mean, case in point, you get yourself a nice set of Vic-Firth 2Bs. They're big, heavy sticks, by the way. But you want something that's lighter weight, so you don't fatigue yourself as much. Well, making drumsticks out of balsa is not really a really good idea, but hey, you'll have less to swing around. You don't have to fatigue yourself so much, and they will move very lightweight because balsa. But the first time you hit a drumhead, it's going to fracture and you're going to need 14 gajillion of them. And, well, what the hell was the point at that point? But that's, of course, assuming that you're somebody that's in need of or that you want drumsticks. Most people don't, like I said. So if you're getting unsolicited anythings for stuff that you otherwise normally wouldn't necessarily need, you look at stuff and you kind of think, I don't know, man. Why are you asking now? See, there's that why question. That's very inconvenient for getting through a lot of this stuff.
Oh, you're part of an estate. You're the potential executor. Are you the executor yet? Can you sign off of things? You're the wife, so you must be able to sign off on things. So why don't you sign off on this, and we'll help you get out of that house. And oh
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm going through every single bloody box because I found yet another book with his signature in it. My father-in-law's signature in it. So I'm up to about 15.
So this
See,
is
what you're demonstrating that you're using reasoning, rationality, logic, and intelligence to go through and filter the statements made by others, reading the contracts that they're presenting you or emailing you, what the details are in it. You're taking the time. You're not just doing split-second reactions. You're actually taking the time to analyze the incoming information and going, okay, is this legitimate or are they full of shit? And I say that because it reminds me of George Carlin. He was talking about, if you want to know if somebody knows what they're talking about, just listen to them and really listen. And it was like, it seems okay. A little strange. He's full of shit, And I mean, that's not an exact quote of the skit, but it's pretty close. Again, memory is tanky. And that's where we're at right now, where we're seeing a lot of people react to the instantly to what they see, what they hear, what they're told, what pops up on their phone. Some things do require instantaneous reaction, but somebody posting a picture of the latest egg roll that they had, and then you immediately going, I gotta go get it, and rush out and go get it, that's not a great first response. Hearing that your neighbor two houses down just had a major accident and are in the hospital, and you're going, oh, Jane Doe or John Doe or whoever it is, we really get along. I haven't heard of this. Let me go knock on the door real quick and see if anybody's home and if everybody's okay, if they need anything. That's a good quick reaction. But when you get these emails saying, hey, you're going to jail unless you send us $1,000 in Bitcoin, or this is the IRS, you owe us money, send us $1,000 in Bitcoin or $1,000 in gift cards, call this number, you're going to jail. It's like, first off, if the police want you to voluntarily turn yourself in, there's a certified letter for that. You don't get generally get an email.
It's not just a certified letter. They've also done similar scams, the police themselves, where they tell the people that they want to arrest that if you go to this location, there's money for you. So, of course, the person goes to that location and ends up arrested because it's specifically set up to do that. This has happened.
Yeah. No. I remember watching videos of recorded police videos where they had a whole bunch of people who had warrants out for their arrest for legitimate reasons. And they just, they sent letters. They tried having the police knock on the door asking to see if they would, willingly come in instead of having to be dragged in or anything like that. I'm talking about people who have legitimately broke the law and did bad things, right? Like they stole, they whatever. And they figured out that, hey, if we make them think they want a giveaway that there was entered in their way, yeah, they walked right in because they thought they were getting something for free. And, really, really, smart criminals are going to look at that and go, yeah, not a chance. The dumb ones, that's the easy ones to get. But I don't enter giveaways. So anybody who ever sends me anything or tells me that I've won such and such giveaway, I'm sorry, that's BS. Oh, well, your company entered you. Okay, hold on. Let me go call my boss and see if our company actually has it. Oh, well, you don't have to do that. Okay, you're full of shit. It's that taking time to verify, that time to analyze, that we see a lot going on where that's not happening in our society. So when somebody is shot by ICE, regardless of whether they live or deceased, they're even taken in, and within 5 minutes of that happening, somebody comes out and goes, this person was a terrorist, or this person was a terroristic threat, or whatever. And it's like, wow, you're really doing that one pretty quick. I'm going to wait to make that judgment based on the evidence of whether or not they were a terroristic threat. Just because you have a camera in front of you on a military base doesn't make it true. I think we all know who I'm talking about right now.
And Brigid, I'm going to go ahead and rope you in at this point because I have to believe that you, in particular, having done military service, knowing a little bit more about how federal, and I may not be using the right terminology for it, federal jurisprudence should otherwise operate. I'm saying should. If you were dealing with rules of engagement in a foreign land, there are specific rules of engagement of how you're supposed to deal with people or combatants or enemy or whatever terminology you want to be using. And I'm pretty sure the whole idea of making snap judgments is something that needs to be, what's the word that I'm looking for? Trained for. And I'm not even talking about the quote-unquote psyop of how do you cover your ass for the public relations nightmare after the fact. The individuals need to have very good training on how to deal with stuff.
Yes, and snap judgments is something that's definitely reinforced in training and repetition. And some would call it, I don't know, a form of brainwashing in a way. I know that during the first several weeks of training, you are told to do really bizarre things for no good reason that you don't understand, but you do them anyway. And that does teach you to make snap judgments. And unfortunately, the snap judgments may or may not be correct. But if, TI comes in at 2 o'clock in the morning, banging on all the lockers and says to strip down naked and go to the day room with your mattresses on top of your head, you do it. Been there, done that. If you are in the middle of taking a shower and TI comes in screaming and says, put on your towels and go downstairs, you put on your towels and go downstairs out into the parking lot because they said so. But the reason for that is because if something happens or somebody gives you an order or anything like that, then you have to be able to act quickly. And if you hesitate, then that could result in dead people. Could result in you being dead or your buddy being dead. Very bad things can happen. As far as like the military police, if they happen to see something out of order, they're not going to like necessarily shoot first and ask questions later, but they still have to apprehend quickly and then get an idea of what they're dealing with. But at the time, they may not be sure of what they're dealing with, and they still have to make a decision.
Now, to that end, and I promise, I'm building into a thing that actually goes into this whole thing. Building into that. Military police, infantry people, following the orders that would otherwise seem nonsensical, like you're talking about with your training instructor, TI. That's what that. If memory
training
serves.
Instructor.
Okay.
In Army, it would be a DI, a drill instructor. Yeah.
The rationale for that, as I've understood it from an outsider's over-the-top point of view, is that you are supposed to be training. Yes, arguably, you could say, brainwashed. May not necessarily be a good way of putting it, but it's hard to argue.
It's not, but it is. I mean, they're changing your mindset. They spend the first month humiliating you, getting you to do really bizarre things, screaming at you, getting in your face, cursing you up one side and down the other, and then they spend the rest of the time building you up to where they want you to be.
The idea...
But they do that because if you're going to break, they want you to break at that point and not break out on the field or in combat or in a war zone. So if you're going to mentally break, that is the time that they try really hard to break you. So there's a purpose behind it.
But as I've understood it also, The point is also to make sure that you do what you are told from someone who is supposed to be instructing you what to do.
Yes.
Now, this is where I'm building up from. If you have people who are trained, who are experienced, who are doing things through this process, a known process with a known agreeable output. I don't like the way that I'm using the terminology because I'm thinking this is a sausage building system, but it's again, just humor me for a second.
Okay.
These are people who will operate in a known expected methodology.
Mm-hmm.
They have been given the information in a regimented way, no pun intended, in order to operate in an established method.
Yes.
The people who have been improperly trained, or not trained, who have then been given a leapfrog into positions of force, not necessarily of authority, positions of force. And if you read between the lines here, I think you see where I'm going on this one. Under supposed color of law, and operate in methods that are contrary to what good established training would dictate.
These people are dangerous.
Would it then be fair to say, telling the public at large that these people, they come in peace to serve man, would be an effective piece of disinformation for exactly the purpose of quelling the public outcry and the public relations nightmare? Because, and I'm going to say this expression one more time, the idea is for people to understand we come to serve man. I'm leaning very heavily on this one because I'm really hoping that folks get the point.
The reference from the Twilight Zone episode with the aliens with the cookbook.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yes. Was
So,
it not?
well, it was, but we don't find that out until the last 15, 20, 30 seconds of the episode, which is exactly as it should be, which is exactly the point.
Right. If you're referring to the current, I'm going to call them, for lack of a better label, paramilitary.
Yeah, that would be
accurate.
That would be accurate.
I think that these paramilitary people with zero training that have firearms are especially dangerous. I think that they're not sure, or they haven't been trained how to react around the public. They are not there for peaceful reasons. I think they see themselves there to quell rebellion, which is not rebellion at all. It's people protesting in the manner of which they're being treated as people and human beings and a community. And my opinion is if this continues on, no matter how many of these people they send, people are going to stand up. They are standing up now. And I don't see them stopping. There are people in other states who are starting to stand up and protest against things that are happening in Minnesota, for example, and California. There are even people in Utah, as conservative as Utah is, that do not like this and do not appreciate it. But I know that myself, I have had training in combat arms before. That was part of my training. But with the wartime job that I had, I would not have been allowed to carry a firearm because, I would fall under the Geneva Convention protections, which are really just suggestions and not really conventions anymore. But as a medical person, I would not have been allowed to be armed.
Well,
Having said
when you've
having said that, eh, can I shoot an M16? Yes. Can I shoot a 38? Yes. I can do it very well. I was, qualified on that more than once when I went through basic training. I had to re-qualify after I got out of basic training. But other things that, I would have had to do without thinking about it too much is triaging, patients, getting people on a lift and getting them onto a helicopter. We had to do obstacle courses carrying people on litters over walls and, under barbed wire or whatever. It was a team of 4. But yeah, I had to do that.
So it would be fair to say that knowing what you know, if there was public relations stuff that was coming out of official channels for various what appear to be not very well qualified paramilitary groups with deadly weaponry, that you would find it to be of questionable intent if there were word that was official correspondences that were released to the press within 30 seconds of something having happened.
Yeah, because what information are they going to have in 30 seconds? They're not. Was there any kind of investigation done within 30 seconds? Absolutely not.
And
anything that would come out within 30 seconds, to me, is bullshit.
Because if you've got 30 seconds to do a really quick copy and paste for something that you were anticipating was going to happen anyway, again, which is going to be misinformation, which is going to be disinformation at that point if you've already got it locked and loaded and ready to be launched?
Disinformation. No question.
So I'm checking over in the live chat, which, by the way, guys, I thank you. I have been checking up on you guys, and I haven't been.
If something was given 15 or 30 minutes later, as part of a briefing, I could see like a minuscule mistake, like the age of the person, that might be misinformation because you might have the age wrong, or it could be a typo. But this stuff that and I'm going to say it, regime is putting out is disinformation. And yes, I am calling it a regime. There are several historians of note that are also referring to it as a regime. This is not an administration. The intent is not to administer crap. They are not administering a thing, and they don't intend to.
Stephanie had pointed out something that I was going to touch on a couple of moments ago. Having said, there was another No Kings on Saturday. Yeah, there are protests that are happening not just here inside of our country of the U.S., but there are still protests that are happening well outside of our borders and offshore as well. And I, for one, am all here for it. Thank you ever so much.
I am. And I think the Canadians, with their elbows up, are about to really throw some elbows up after this announcement of 100% tariffs.
Yeah, it's going to get really bad with Canada.
And I wish I knew the Danish equivalent of elbows up. I'm sure that they've got one, but I don't speak Dutch.
Oh, probably.
If I could sell and get myself out of this house, PDQ, and into a house up in Canada, I would do it. I would do it today because the stuff here is getting worse. Yeah, I basically throw my green card out the window, but mm, my safety is more important than the shit that's going on.
And I'm sorry, I was going to say that the Danish equivalent would be throwing cans of butter cookies that have been replaced with ice in the center of it, and like it's an oversized puck is what was coming to mind. I didn't know quite how to pronounce it correctly, but try to imagine curling, but overhand.
Mm-hmm. Or frozen lutefisk.
Don't even fucking joke about that. Don't even fuck. The only frozen lutefisk that's good is stuff that's frozen in the center of an iceberg.
That would work.
Like way the hell out. Where nobody will get at to it. I don't even think polar bear would eat that would be bad.
I'm an activist out here. I've been an activist since I was 16 and did my first Earth Day parade walk. If it's something that I believe in, I go and protest, even if the people around me tell me not to do it. I've actually had to have discussions with people who are out there protesting right now why I'm not going out and being at every single one of the protests that I hear about. That's because if I get grabbed, you might never see me again.
At several levels. Yeah, there's a certain point where you do have to look at it all and just go, you know what? My one voice, it's not enough. It's not worth the risk, and that's perfectly legit.
It's not so much that my voice isn't worth the risk. It's more a matter of I risk my life, and it's proven now that everybody that protests against ICE is risking their life because those maniacs don't care. They don't care about what they're doing to people. They don't care that they're terrorizing. They don't care. What was it? 3 days ago, there was an ICE raid 6 blocks from me. 6 long blocks, but still 6 blocks from me. It's more like a mile with the way that you'd actually have to go to get to it. But still, crow flies, 6 blocks, ICE raid on an apartment. And apparently the city police actually was helping people get rid of the ice. And I heard about that and just went, oh shit, that's way too close to me.
Well, at least your police there are helping.
Yeah.
ISP here is assisting ICE.
This is supposed to be a sanctuary city. Yeah, right. Our mayor is an immigrant and now an American citizen, and yet he does not want to help other immigrants, but that's beside the point. Yesterday or the day before, I actually would have to check on my videos. There was not 1, but 3 accidents because of a cop chase with the helicopters flying around. I was freaking out and in tears because I thought those were ICE helicopters because of what happened the day before. And I was trying to hide in my house and keep away so that they couldn't see me.
And that's a very legitimate fear.
And earlier this week,
let me inject real quick. It's even more of a legitimate fear because there was a memo that was made public where it's showing that ICE is recording anybody who records them and adding them to a list to investigate background checks, license plate, look up and all that to get home addresses, the whole 9 yards. So just wanted to add that on top. Go ahead.
Yeah, Palantir is in play now for anybody who wasn't aware. They were using it for, tracking immigrants, but now they're using it to track people in general, everybody.
Okay, early this week, Monday, Tuesday, I brought some papers to a medical office because I was trying to get some stuff filled out, and I got a really rude phone call, and I flipped out. I freaked out. And I said the exact wrong thing, which caused the police to show up to do a wellness check to make sure I wasn't doing anything stupid. I didn't want to open the door because I was afraid it was not the police, but ICE.
Again, it's legit, and this actually cuts into something that was what Stephanie had just put. Also, I just assume anything your government. Okay, I'm going to pause there for a second. That is in this particular case, I'm going to use the expression gender neutral term for it. It may not necessarily be the best accurate, but you know what? We'll go with that one. Just quote, I just assume anything your government says to be the opposite of the truth. It makes life simpler and is accurate. And what fucking dystopian nightmare have we found ourselves into where we have to look at everything and go, oh, this is Star Wars and less Star Trek.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to give a shameless plug out to looking at international news and getting out of the U.S. bubble, because none of our media outlets, save PBS, what little there is left of it, have the truth.
Or enough of it.
Our media outlets have been terrorized by the current administration, and not the previous administration, but the one before that. Same person in charge. They were terrorized into complacency and silence, and to specifically towing the government line instead of doing what they are supposed to do, which is to challenge the government.
Well, I gave up on our mainstream media back in 2009, back during the Arab Spring, because for 3 days, all of the channels, and it didn't matter if it was Fox, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, were covering wall to wall Britney Spears and her latest mental breakdown while the Mubarak government in Egypt was falling. And I thought that the government falling in Egypt was a much bigger story. And the only news outlet who carried it was Al Jazeera and some live blogs. But it took 3 days for any of the outlets here to report on that. And so I gave up at that point.
Stephanie's also pointing out, and rightly so, Midas Touch is accurate. You find it on YouTube. And Brian Taylor Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
There is far and away enough shame to go around for what's otherwise been described as, and I'm using the expression, and I have to be honest and say that I've, until relatively recently, had not heard the expression, the fourth estate. It's supposed to be there. It's supposed to be the piece that is effectively the last continuing education of the masses.
It's fallen.
The fourth estate is supposed to be the media. And it's supposed to keep the government honest. It's supposed to
keep the public informed.
Yeah, the public informed and the government honest. But instead, it's basically a propaganda machine for the government. I got information about shit happening in Minneapolis from CBC before I got it from any of the American channels.
And I would trust the CBC far away. Hell, I would trust. What the hell is the hell is that other one that World News, whatever?
I go to AP Reuters, CBC,
Yeah.
The Independent, The Telegraph, Der Spiegel, and Sydney Morning Herald, and PBS. Those are the sources that I go to.
There are a couple of oh god, I gotta track it back down again. There's a group that every so often they put out their measurement of which news outlets are more accurate and more center or left or right or more opinion, more fact, and consistently AP and Reuters tend to be like right there at the top for the factualization, the fact reporting, and very close to center, if not almost directly center. So, yeah, it's always good to know who this all is, and I'm just only finally realizing it's about that time we gotta.
Yeah, I was just going to mention one last thing while we're talking about news sources,
Yep.
which I found kind of interesting, is on BlueSky, which a lot of people are on BlueSky now. There have been some stories that people have linked to, Washington Post, or CBS, or other places like that that have been labeled with this little tag, "Cite Suspect Source." I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, because heaven forbid that we
So
actually
now
have
CBS
yeah.
and Washington Post are suspect sources according to BlueSky. They know.
How interesting and curious.
Mm-hmm.
And next time, I have to make sure that I have the host chat text window open instead of the instead of the show notes, because I just realized that there was a couple of things that popped up for us that I probably should have seen and read, and I didn't think to do that. I'm terribly sorry.
It's okay. The wiki link I already added to your show notes about alternative facts.
Oh, I appreciate that. So we'll get around to that. Io, any last thing really quickly that you want to drop in there then?
I was actually looking at what it would cost for me to go for my citizenship, because I'm both the wife of an American and the child of an American. And I basically cannot afford to even try for my citizenship. About $2,000. Never mind the testing that I would have to go through and all the other steps.
You don't want it here anyway. I mean, you really don't. And there have been reports now of people going to take their citizenship or complete their citizenship ceremonies being abducted from said ceremonies.
The only thing that would protect me might be the fact that I'm palm colored. And
That didn't protect them. I would get the fuck out of Dodge.
I would love to get the fuck out of Dodge. Sorry. But I can't afford it. The estate's been crippled because of something that was done to it. And I found out this past week that was possibly an illegal act.
That's as far as we're going to take that line. In a public forum, in a public recorded forum, that's as far as we're going to go on that.
I don't know for sure if it is legal or not, but I'm going after everything I can just for my own safety and to get out of here. Either I need to live with a roommate that's American, that can stand between me, that's willing to stand between me and ICE, or I need to get out of the country. And if I could get out of the country today, I would. If I could have movers come in, box up everything, and deal with it later, I would. but I don't have the money.
Look at the bright side. Once you're on the opposite side of the north border, it's the cold in the winter versus the tactical assault seagulls. And really, if there's a line of that, nobody wants to go crossing over that.
Yes,
These are the jokes.
The Empress Hotel and the seagulls. That
Tech,
poor man.
yeah. Tech, any last item that you want before we get out of here?
Yeah, for people living in areas where the police and ICE are going around knocking on doors and trying all the tactics to gain entry and such, if you happen to get one where police come knocking on your door saying they're doing a wellness check, that's basically a knock and talk. If they're saying wellness check, they don't have a warrant to be there. They don't have a warrant for entry. Okay. Now, depending on where you live, there are little nuances. So you should probably talk to a local attorney. I mean, if you can afford it, you can usually sit down with an attorney for half an hour of their time or to an hour of their time for $100 just for quick legal advice on police and wellness checks in your area. Some areas even call them welfare check. But if they come knocking on your door saying, hey, we're here for wellness check, we had a report, they're not going to tell you by who, that you're agitated or you're having problems or whatever. Just say, no, I'm doing fine. I'm doing okay. Thank you for stopping by. Have a wonderful day. And if they don't leave, say, look, you don't have permission to be here. I do not give you permission to stay on my property. You need to go now. And whatever you do, don't open the door, because anything they see inside that they can use as an excuse to gain entry, they will. If you get angry or your speech is extremely agitated or there's big sounds in the background, so make sure the TV's off and all that stuff, they'll use that as an excuse. And, as soon as you hear somebody knocking on your door saying police, put your cell phone on record. Not so that you can scare them with it. Police are not scared by having cell phones stuck in their face. They're wearing body cams most now. You use that because if you need an attorney, the attorney will want that. Okay? That's not to scare the police off. It used to scare police off before body cams were the big norm. But that's it. And again, I'm not a lawyer. You probably want to talk to a lawyer in your area about stuff like that. But that's just general guidance. All right, because it would not surprise me to hear or read on the news that so-and-so had their family deported because police did a wellness check and they opened the door.
Fair enough. I'm gonna end this off with something quick for a change, because I've got a bad habit of actually hitting another 5-minute mark because it just gets ingrained in me. Disinformation and misinformation come from very different ideas in my head. Like I said earlier, misinformation is just, it's a mistake. It's an error. It can happen for any number of reasons. Disinformation is difficult to isolate. No pun intended. Because it is an active thing. It takes effort to make disinformation palatable. And the absolute best arbor that you have against disinformation is patience and resourcefulness. Give something time. Disinformation, your average run-of-the-mill disinformation, will fall apart. It will melt. It will just dissolve as information comes forward, as factual information comes along and simply burns it away. Disinformation is something that over time will simply fall apart on its own. But that's the problem, isn't it? Being able to take the time, being able to wait that out, in some cases. We don't always have that luxury because it is in this instantaneous change of items, of news. We don't always have that luxury. So do what you can. Help yourself. Help others, if possible. And if you happen to be people who are in the law field, litigators, I know it's not something that's going to build revenue. But if you've got the opportunity of helping out people, maybe even pro bono, because there are some lawyers who've put out the news out there on like BlueSky, you know, if you're in Minnesota and you get picked up, here's my information. I'll help as many pro bono as I can. First off, cool on you, man. I don't use the expression lightly, but you're doing the Lord's work that way. If you've got some way of helping folks, even with just putting together pamphlets to help out, to offer to folks, thank you. And those of us that don't need to ask you for help, thank you. We got to go ahead and get out of here because it's cold. I have nowhere to go. And my car has been on a charger all day because it's just too flippin' cold. And truth be told, it has been so cold and will continue to be. I would much rather it have a charge, trying to keep it a little bit warm so that hopefully it doesn't like freeze and crack. Because I'd rather have a weak battery than no battery. So keep that in mind. As always, everyone, thank you for being with us. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and you got something to think about for the week ahead. Hopefully it'll help keep you warm. As I said, Lexa, Stephanie, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it, as always. Stay safe and, more appropriately, keep hoping for good stuff around over here because Lord knows we need it. Io, as always, thank you very much. I would otherwise say stay warm, but I don't think you got to worry about that too much then. Just be safe.
Actually, at nighttime, it does get a little chilly. I actually have to wear 2 blankets at night.
Respectfully, fuck all the fuck of you. But you take care of yourself.
Trying.
And just remember, collectively, we're proud of you.
Yes, I was on the highway today. Second time ever. I was never able to be on the highway when he was here and when he was alive, but now I've been on the highway twice. I almost got hit today.
That's a rite of passage, but good job. Brigid, glad you're able to make it. Glad that you've still got power. Let's hope that that stays that way and heat and all. And
yeah, we got snow squalls getting ready to come through. I just looked at the radar. We've got red stuff. And I'm like, oh, yay.
So who gets it tonight?
Christy Nome. Go fuck yourself.
I think the others here agree. An extra.
I think she already has. Probably with a cactus. I mean, have you seen her face?
I do believe that I have, but the last time I saw a face like that, it was either on a Doctor Who episode way early, or it might have been stretched across an oblong device that was played in the snow recently. Which, by the way, I guess I have to say it, Buffalo Bills, I guess this is not our year.
No, sad.
But that's a fair one. You take care of yourself, hon. Thank you.
Welcome.
Tech, glad you're able to make it. You take care of yourself. Also, stay warm, stay safe out there, huh?
Yeah, that's the benefit of being a Northerner. Like, I've been able to actually give legitimate advice to people down here by me that I know don't have cars and they walk to work, things like that, how to stay warm when moving around in this kind of weather. Um, People who don't have what to do in the case of a power outage, for people who don't have fireplaces or gas stoves, or even do have gas stoves, but maybe they've never used them in those capacity and they're not aware of certain threats in doing so. Um,
Yeah.
and for all that's, I know for an atheist show, for all that's holy people, do not pour water on your windshield in an attempt to de-ice it. You will not have a windshield anymore. Just do it the slow way. Put the key in the ignition if you have it, or remote start, or push to start, and put the internal defroster on while you use your broom to get the snow that you can get off the car, and let the warm air inside do the job for you. Now is not the time to be in a hurry to try to get the process done. Okay? If you have to wake up a half an hour early to get it done, do so. But please don't pour water on your windshield. Please.
You can use isopropyl alcohol to unfreeze your door handles, and if you need to get your key to open the door.
Yeah, lock the icer and stuff, but you don't want to do it on glass, especially
No,
not
you don't want to
tempered
do something.
glass.
No.
But for some of us with older model cars, we have to use the key to open the door. And you have to be able to get the key into the slot, and you have to be able to open the door.
Yeah, and most of your local car parts stores, like AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts stuff, they have that product called Lock De-icer, which literally comes with a special nozzle designed for those keyways that you press it against. It's under pressure, it does the injection, it gives you the instructions that you follow to the letter so you don't destroy your lock, the whole 9 yards. But just patience, people. Now is the time to have a little bit of patience. This weather is not forgiving. Be safe.
No, it's not.
And my last personal for everybody. I have made it a thing. If I have to be out there driving, my driver's side window must be unstuck so that I can open it. And I don't say that for the reason that you might otherwise think, because there's two reasons for it. Item one, on the drive, I will crack it open a little bit. Even if I've got the heat going full bore at my feet, I will open it a crack to get the humidity out of the cabin, because that will turn into frost on the inside. That's a bad thing. But the other part, if I'm driving and there are plows coming the opposite direction, I will roll it the whole rest of the way down. I will stick my arm completely out of the window. I will point forward at the plows to get their attention, and I will give them a big thumbs up as they're about to go by. You have no idea the shifts that these guys have got to do. The amount of coffee that would not be able to help them do the job. And the amount of tonnage that they are driving around. Do not underestimate the good vibe.
When I still lived in New York as a kid, what I used to do is, because one of these professional snowplow drivers would always come through our street. We lived on the side of the mountain. You had to get our streets, otherwise it would end horribly. And I would always be outdoors, because you could hear them coming, and they took their time because literally the incline was very steep. I'd be outdoors in my snow coat, and I would have in my hand a little baggie, which had some brownies and cookies in it, and a to-go cup with lid filled with hot chocolate. And I would always hold it up. You could see the steam coming out of the little hole and everything. And they would stop, they'd get out. I'd say, thank you. And I'd hand it over, and they'd have the biggest smile.
One cannot underestimate goodwill. So you all have yourselves a good, safe week ahead With luck, we will be back on again next week. I apologize for the times that I've had to take off. It's not been an easy choice to make, but it'll be what it'll be. As always, if you need to be in touch with us, best place is probably either over on the Discord server, or if you want to get us over on having a moment, and I'll explain in a second. On any kind of instant messaging platform, best one is going to be over there on BlueSky, because it's a hell of a lot easier that way. I'm just having a moment because I'm just suddenly realizing if anybody really is in need of us, I'm just worried about what that would look like these days. And I really hadn't thought of it in that term. We'll try to do our best to be here. So if you need a voice, if you need an ear, we'll do what we can for you. Just let us know. Other than that, as always, until the next time we're together, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. My lady, it is still 20.5 years later. I'm still in love. Matane Fujin, I love you, I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we're together, everyone. As always, good night.